In order to meet food, clothing, housing, transportation, education, recreation, and other life needs, a variety of consumer activities must be carried out by everyone. Consumer protection has become an issue to which the overall community needs to pay close attention for the following reasons: the diversification of goods and services, sales practices, complexities in channel and product technology, manufacturing and sales operations, and the management of business operations. Taiwan's economy grew rapidly throughout the 1970s, and the national income increased accordingly, so that consumer problems gradually gained greater attention. An incident involving polychlorinated biphenyls found in edible oils that took place in 1979 expedited the development of the consumer protection movement. The Consumer Protection Law was passed on January 11, 1994, due to efforts made by relevant government departments, public opinion representatives, and civil society. The Executive Yuan's Consumer Protection Committee was established on July 1st of the same year. Then, on January 1st, 2012, in concert with reforms made to government organizations, the Consumer Protection Committee was revamped as the Department of Consumer Protection under the Executive Yuan. According to the provisions of Article 6 of the Consumer Protection Law, at the central government level, the competent authorities shall have primary jurisdiction in overseeing consumer protection business affairs, while at local government levels, the competent authorities shall be the local governments themselves. In order to supervise and coordinate consumer protection affairs, the Executive Yuan set up the Consumer Protection Committee, and the Vice Premier of the Executive Yuan is responsible for convening this committee. The heads of relevant ministries are called upon to provide related consultation, along with representatives of the national consumer protection groups, representatives of national business operators, members of academia, and other experts. In principle, a meeting is convened each month to focus on proposals for consultation and discussion. After any rulings made by the chairman, the competent authorities are then requested to implement them in accordance with the conclusions of the meeting. The Department of Consumer Protection, DCP, is responsible for executing a pertinent review of current consumer protection mechanisms and clarifies which agency has administrative responsibility when it comes to certain consumer issues. If necessary, it will designate the agency responsible for handling certain cases. The DCP routinely evaluates the circumstances under which the competent authority implements consumer protection services and announces the evaluation results to the public. The DCP promotes the relevant services in collaboration with civil consumer protection groups in order to expand the effectiveness of these services. In addition to preparing a budget to subsidize education, publicity, and inspection activities, once or twice each year, consumer protection groups connect nationwide to report on their work, which strengthens the communication of ideas and the sharing of experiences between the groups. The DCP has announced that there are currently more than 10 consumer protection groups. The Consumer Protection Law was announced and implemented in 1994. Amendments were begun in 2012 in order to keep the regulations in tune with modern developments and make them more complete by drawing from legislation in Japan, the European Union, and Germany, while still keeping our country's practical considerations at the time in mind. The new amendments were announced to the public and put into effect in 2015. The main points of the amendments included strengthening and finalizing coherent measures on the mandatory and prohibitory provisions of standardized contract models, announcing a list of reasonable matters as exceptions on ruling out a 7-day cooling-off period to rescind the distance sales, and relaxing the criterion of restrictions on group litigation brought by consumer protection groups. Moreover, Reviewing standardized contract models and their mandatory and prohibitory provisions has long been an important task of the DCP. The Consumer Protection Law stipulates that standardized contract models are a form of administrative guidance, and in accordance with Article 17 of the law, businesses can select specific industry research in regard to mandatory and prohibitory provisions of standard form contracts, and this can be submitted to the Executive Yuan for approval. Standardized contract models with mandatory and prohibitory provisions can protect consumers, and it is unlikely that the rights and interests of consumers are at risk due to unfair, unilateral standard contract provisions drawn up by business operators. As of 2016, the DCP has validated 94 types of standard form contracts, such as for small bus rental, home loans, hotel reservations, and so forth. There are also 64 types of standard form contracts with mandatory and prohibitory provisions, including those that cover purchasing homes, retail business service vouchers, third-party payment services, etc. The most unique aspect of the nation's consumer protection administrative system, one which originated in Scandinavia, is that of the consumer protection official, who functions in a fashion similar to the European model at the local level in Taiwan. The DCP and local government each have consumer protection officials. Local consumer protection officials are responsible for both filing and mediating each and every case of appeal. These DCP officials are thus in charge of handling major consumer disputes as well as cross-departmental joint inspections and investigations. Whenever a significant consumer incident occurs, the DCP consumer protection officials immediately take steps to understand the issue and assess what impact it poses on consumer interests. They can then, in a timely manner, take the necessary administrative measures and provide needed assistance to consumers. In addition, each year the DCP determines a number of commodity and food items which can be inspected and investigated jointly via central and local competent authorities, the results of which are then announced to the public at press conferences. In order to safeguard consumer interests, competent authorities and business operators are urged to conduct improvement reviews so that problems can be identified. In addition, prior to reforms to the DCP, an online system was established in 2004 to provide a channel for consumer complaints. This has allowed for an archive of relevant information that can be categorized for analysis, which is then made available for annual administrative reference. The number of dispute cases per year has gone from 972 written appeals in 1995 to more than 50,000 cases registered on the online complaint system in 2016. This system has proven to be a convenient channel not only for consumers, but it has also been a huge benefit for the handling of cases and the analyzing and collating of information. A trend has developed within the DCP based on international consumer protection laws to periodically review and develop consumer protection policy and planning in order to facilitate the planning and the systematic promotion of consumer protection services by each competent authority. In order to promote greater awareness of their individual rights on the part of consumers, each year the DCP plans education and advocacy activities that include outdoor activities, promotional material, broadcasts, and online dissemination, which carry out education and advocacy opportunities, and which are meant to reach out, especially to help disadvantaged groups. In addition to consumer protection service centers set up throughout the country in every local government municipality, the DCP also has a consumer center. The special service number 1950 can be dialed whenever someone encounters a consumer problem in any county or city for direct and immediate advisory service from that particular area's consumer service center. The DCP has been actively involved in international consumer protection conferences and events, such as holding Consumer Policy Committee meetings with the International Consumer Protection and Enforcement Network, ICPEN, and the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD, as well as the International Conference on Consumer Law, among others. With the advent of the Internet age, the DCP has strengthened its ability on an international level to collect information and collect international cooperation services. We look forward to being able to collaborate with every country in promoting global consumer quality. The DCP believes that its goal to protect consumers involves not only guaranteeing the rights and benefits of consumers, but that the interests of business operators must also be taken into account. Consequently, to hold fast to this idea, the DCP is committed to building a fair, reasonable, and safe consumer environment, to raising consumer awareness, and to safeguarding consumer rights and benefits, along with other tasks such as creating a win-win situation for both consumers and business operators, thereby promoting the prosperity and development of the overall national society.